it is extremely difficult to be able to make a judgment of where gold and silver is going to be. The last calendar year when gold went up 30-35%, I remember people telling how gold was overvalued. Gold is up another 48% this calendar year. It's actually the things which are buying gold and driving the gold demand because of. Unlike gold, silver is actually a large industrial driven commodity. This can mean that silver is significantly undervalued. Am I buying gold at these levels? The answer.
Hi guys, welcome to another Aspros podcast. And today's podcast is not about, let's say, a particular corpus number, how to make 10 CR, 50 CR, 100 CR. Today it's about one of the asset classes, or rather two of the asset classes, which are very much in demand in India. One particular asset class which has risen up by some amazing numbers. People have maybe missed the rally and they're also whining about it. So that is gold. And the other side is the silver, which is, let's say, not often talked about that much, maybe very underappreciated. Maybe that could be the next thing. Maybe gold is priced out, we don't know. So today we have an expert with us. So hi Kirtan, welcome to the Aspros podcast.
Vishwas, thank you so much for having me.
Right. So Kirtan, obviously you are also one of those guys who have done a lot of finance podcasts. You have guided people right, left and center, right? And one interesting though thing which I have noticed particularly that you have been sharing in your community over the, I think, last 5-6 months is that you've been giving a lot of commentary on gold.
Yeah.
Right. And you stated how there is a phenomena wherein the gold, whenever gold does well, equities markets don't do well, and the vice versa happens. But these have been very strange times, right? Gold has been rising up crazily,
Correct.
right? Despite even if equity markets have done well and not done well, but gold has done well.
Yes.
Right. So number one, what I would like to ask is why has been gold doing so much well? Is it because of the consumer demand, what maybe people are thinking, or is it something else? Is there a deeper thing of central banks which most people don't know about?
I think the current reason why gold is doing very well, like you rightly said, is a larger macro factor than the retail demand. Retail demand is nowhere close. In fact, if you go in the history and you look today also at the prices at which gold are, retail demand actually falls instead of going up.
Right.
But when central banks buy, they don't look at the price. They buy because they want to solve a problem.
Right.
Now, what is a problem that the central banks are actually trying to solve? It is famously called as de-dollarization.
Right.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people watching us would have heard about this term, known about it, but I still typically end up meeting a lot of people who don't know the crux of what this typically means, right? So if you take a step back, and let's talk about US for a second. Okay, US has $35 trillion of debt today, which is close to 120% of their GDP.
Updated numbers are 37 trillion. Yeah,
correct. Now, if that's the kind of debt and percentage to GDP that you are at, you should actually be a little scared with the kind of debt that you have as an economy. Right? But have you actually seen any economical crisis or macro problems in the US since 2008? They've just been printing money.
Right.
The reason why US itself is not scared, right, but the others are, is because the reason why US is dominating the world today is because the US dollar is a reserve currency.
Right.
What do I mean when I say reserve currency? I'm saying probably 70-80% of the world trade happens in dollars, right? Even if an Argentina wants to buy from China, they trade in dollars. Right. Which is why what typically happens is any country that is probably looking at importing or exporting and the world is trading in dollars will need dollars at their disposal.
Right.
And which is why all of these countries will have something called as dollar reserves.
Right.
Now, dollar reserves does not mean कि आपने $100 billion अपनी बैंक में रखा है, because you will lose to inflation in that case, right? If the money stays in the bank, inflation is far higher than what the bank is actually fetching you. The value of your money will keep dropping.
Right.
So typically what these central banks do is park this money in US treasury, or in simple language, bonds or FDs.
Right.
So whenever US comes out with an FD, these guys park this money there. It is in dollar and they end up making some returns on that. And that is how treasuries are built by central banks globally. I would not be surprised, though I don't know the exact number, but I'll not be surprised if the average central banker holds 60 to 80% of its treasury only in dollars. That is the dollar dominance.
Right.
Now, as US, when you know that the world needs dollar in everything that they do, right? They can print as much as they want and it'll still not be a problem. Can somebody like India do this? The answer is no.
Right.
You will have a shooting inflation here. The value of your rupee will fall and then you will go crazy. So, long story short, what I'm trying to tell you is that the US is the supreme power because the US dollar is the reserve currency,
Of the
because
world.
everybody trades in US dollars and every central bank has US denominated bonds as reserves.
Right.
Now, let me take you a couple of years back when the Russia-Ukraine war actually happened.
Right.
US, for whatever reason, and I think the podcast is probably a little timed and
Right.
Let's not go in that direction.
Yeah.
But because when the Russia and the Ukraine war happened and the US did not want Russia to, kind of go ahead and continue with the war, US asked Russia to stop the war. And
Right.
for whatever reasons, maybe Russia decided that it wants to continue with the war and not stop it.
Right.
Um,
And then the SWIFT
to
ban.
counter this impact,
Right.
right? That how can you not listen to me? I am the US. US put something called as sanctions. Now, I'm
Right.
not sure if our viewers know about it, but a sanction typically means in this context that the Russian central bank also had roughly $420 billion of investment in US bonds.
Right.
And the US said, okay, you are not listening to me. You are not stopping the war. I'm not going to pay back this 420 billion back to you.
Right.
Which means they sanctioned, freeze, whatever we want to call that as, $420 billion worth of Russian treasuries
Right.
in the US
Right.
bonds. That actually sent out a shocking wave to
Across the world.
central banks globally.
Right.
The boss, if these guys can do that to Russia,
They can do it.
They can do it to
anybody else.
anybody of us, right?
Right.
And that is where a deeper thought of de-dollarization actually started percolating. What is de-dollarization? Moving away from dollar.
Yeah. Moving away from the
De-dollarize.
Right. Right.
Now, if you look at a central bank and their currency reserves, right, you will understand that the highest amount of reserves that they hold is
Right.
US dollars. Second is gold. And everything else is rest.
Right.
And everything else is so small that you can count it in 1%, 2%, 3% kinds.
Right.
So if they have to move away from dollar, what else will they actually look forward to? The only asset class that they could replace dollar with in their treasury was gold.
Right.
And that is what actually ignited the gold rally. If you see what China is doing, if you see what India is doing, they've been continuously, since the day the sanctions were put on Russia, except for 1 month, they've been continuously buying gold for the last 24 months, every month, and at record highs. Right? And which is why I was saying for them, it is immaterial what the gold price is. That's the retail thought process.
Right.
Even at these prices, they bought record gold in the first half of 2025. Right? So it's actually the central banks which are buying gold and driving the gold demand because of de-dollarization.
The de-dollarization. And to give you the context to yours also, so why gold is bought? Because gold is considered as a store of value. When there is a store of value, something which is finite, you can count upon that and you can use it to your advantage. So if you're thinking like, why only gold? So that is the reason.
I'll give you something that I can't. I'm not sure how the audience is going to take, but there is a thesis that is running in my head for quite some time now. And that is, have you suddenly started seeing that the US has increased significant focus towards Bitcoins and other cryptos? Right? Because look, if the US dollar, and I love a little history in macroeconomics, you go to the African Gaddafi days, right? Because he was the one who originally thought that I will start trading in oil with others in other currency outside of the US dollar. US very smartly used France and NATO to kill him. That is exactly the modus operandi that they did when it came to Iran and Saddam Hussein. Because Saddam Hussein actually offered people by people I mean countries, that I will trade with you in your local currency. I will sell you the oil, you pay me your local currency. He got killed. All of us know whatever the story may be. But
Right.
I think the history very clearly says
Hmm.
that the day the US feels that the dollar is threatened, they've done something drastic.
Right.
But this time around, the world is very different from what it was during the
Right.
Gaddafi or the
Right.
Saddam
And
Hussein
these are
days.
not small countries now that you're dealing with. You're dealing with
Absolutely.
India, China, and Russia.
Absolutely. You're not dealing with
Yeah.
some Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Right.
I may be completely wrong with this, but I'll not be surprised if 20 years later I hear this panning out. How that the US is using probably the crypto ecosystem to try and counter. Because
Yeah.
look, the day, uh, why is India, China, or even Russia trying to move to gold? Because they don't know what's the current alternative
Right.
to dollar,
Right.
right? And because they don't know the current alternative to dollar, they're going back to a century old
Yeah.
recognized asset class, which is gold. Now, if US also starts pumping in gold, then there is no leverage that US has versus China, Russia, and India.
Right.
And I don't know why in my head I am building this thesis that probably what US is trying to now do with adding Bitcoin to their strategic reserves in treasury,
Right.
or probably coming out with stable coins backed debt, is probably in some way trying to play this game where they are trying to support the
Hmm.
dollar dominance
Right.
in a way. I don't know how will it pan out, but this is something that I think is a very building thesis
No,
that people have to
you're
look at.
absolutely right. It's not just you. There are some other experts also that have personally talked about this matter. And the height of this hypocrisy is that there was a time when US used to look down upon crypto, that Bitcoin is bad, Ethereum is bad, and today they're buying actual treasuries of it. There are ETFs available in the US market where you can buy for particularly for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, because it holds the same nature as gold, that it can be seen as a store of value.
Yeah.
So that logic also plays in. So
In fact, their vice president, if I'm not wrong, in one of the speeches 2 weeks back before this recording, actually made a comment that because since 2021, China does not allow mining of cryptos, and China is anti
yeah,
cryptos, and we are anti China, we should promote cryptos.
right.
I think I'm pretty surprised that a vice president of the largest democracy in the world actually made that statement, which moves me towards the thought that probably they're doing something to do with cryptos that people
Right.
like you and me cannot
Right.
currently figure out.
Yeah, yeah. Because the thing is that US dominance has matched up with its arrogance now. That arrogance is basically now playing out where they have come in a situation where things have ballooned out so much.
Yeah.
Now things basically look beyond their control, and this time I think this is a very unique situation that we're seeing. And what people don't know about history is that there have been in the past there were countries which were global reserve currencies. For example,
Yeah.
Spain at a time was the dominant
Yeah.
currency. There were other countries. I think France also used to had it. The Greek and the Romans of the world. So because we have seen for 100 years just the US dollar, it is
We
very
don't know about.
it is very unimaginable for us to see that tomorrow
Correct.
there can be some other global reserve currency.
Absolutely.
But exciting times because. COVID also we saw it for the first time, and it
Absolutely.
was
No, I mean,
once in a
if
century
you
event.
just go a month back and look at all the news that have come out, I think India, Russia, and China have significantly been talking internally amongst itself and with their trade partners that we want to trade with you in our local currencies,
Yeah, that has
right?
also happened.
So I think, of course, de-dollarization may not happen overnight,
Right,
but I think the world is moving in that direction for sure.
right, 100%. So I think this gives a very clear picture as to why gold prices have been moving
Yeah.
up a lot. So who were thinking that maybe this because of the consumer demand, because India में हम अपने घर में इतना gold वो खरीद के रखते हैं और वो reason है. So that is definitely not the reason, because at the pace which central banks buy. And also, I was reading up on the latest numbers. The Indian household gold buying has gone down, primarily because gold prices have rallied so
Absolutely.
much that it is going out of
Absolutely.
control. So yeah, this was about gold. So now another thing, the another commodity or the metal which is not that much talked about is silver, right? And the story of silver, in my thesis or way I've been reading about it, looks very different from gold, because gold, like we discussed, has been the central bank push.
Yeah,
But for silver, there's a multipolar situation that might be happening, which could actually be demand driven
correct.
rather than what has happened with gold.
Absolutely.
So, what's your take on that?
So I will give you a fundamental and a technical view on silver.
Yeah,
Okay. Uh, let's start with the fundamental view first. Unlike gold, silver is actually a large industrial
right,
driven commodity.
right,
In fact, 60%, if I'm not wrong with the number, and 5% here and there, 60% of silver demand is actually industrial.
right.
Right. Now, suppose if I ask you what has really picked up as a theme over the last 4 or 5 years globally,
Yeah,
I'm sure you will not deny if I answer or you answer that semiconductor,
right.
EV, these are
AI,
two
yeah,
themes that have picked up significantly globally,
right,
right?
right.
Now you look at it this way. Uh, from a semiconductor standpoint, you
Hmm.
need you need silver
Right,
while you are trying to build more and more semiconductors,
right,
right? You look at EV, right? The entire theme of EV or batteries will increase the use of silver in the market. One theme that has picked up over the last 2 years is AI,
hmm.
right? Thanks to AI, there are tons and tons of data centers that are coming up,
Right,
right? Because it needs more computing.
right.
Again, more computing, more machines, you need more silver. So uh, I think silver actually has picked up significantly, like you
Hmm.
rightly mentioned, unlike gold, because the demand has really gone up.
Right,
Some sectors have become so popular, so widespread, so global in nature that the demand for the backend machines
hmm.
and hence silver in those machines has actually increased or pumped up the demand for silver.
Hmm.
Silver in the last 4 years has actually seen a supply shortage,
Right,
which is why while the demand is going up and the
right.
supply is short for 4 years,
Hmm.
it is actually pushing in a lot of
Hmm.
requirement for silver in that context. Also, what is happening is there are 2 3 very large mines, silver mines, which are coming to an end in 2026-27, which is expected to have further shortfall in silver mining pretty
Right.
soon. And which is why demand for silver has been crazy over the last 4 5 years, and supply shortage has
Hmm.
led to silver
So there
prices
is
to
an
go up.
actual demand supply thing happening here,
Absolutely.
which yeah,
Also, if I give you now, this was more fundamental. If I give you a more technical view, right? Technically, both of these commodities, gold and silver, are traded or pegged to something called as a gold silver ratio,
right,
right? Now, what do I mean when I say gold silver ratio? Uh, if you look at the last 25 30 years, gold silver ratio has anywhere been in the range of 65 to 85. What that means is 1 gram of gold is equal to 65 grams of silver.
right.
Sorry, 1 ounce of gold
One
is
ounce of
equal to
gold is
65
right,
ounces of silver, or 1 ounce of gold is equal to 1 ounce of
right,
85 ounces of silver. That's been the average gold silver ratio, 65 to 85 historically for 3 decades.
right,
Currently, that you and I talk, it is 107.
right,
Now, what does 107 actually signify? 107 signifies that 1 ounce of gold is 107 ounces of silver, which traditionally or historically has to be 1 ounce of gold to 65 ounces of silver. Now, this can mean two things. This can mean that silver is significantly undervalued,
right.
because the average says that you pay 65 ounces of gold, silver, and get 1 ounce of gold. Today, you have to pay 107 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of
Yeah.
gold. So, it can either mean that silver is significantly underperforming,
Hmm.
or it can also mean that gold is
Differently
significantly
and
overweight or outperforming,
overperform. Yeah.
right? Which is another technical reason why, because of the gold rally, has also pushed demand for silver to go up from a trading or an investment perspective.
Right.
Because the more you ask for silver ETFs and those guys have to have silver commodity backed up, right? They will also pump up to more demand in the market.
Right.
So I think there is a fundamental and a technical reason why silver is actually going up.
Right, absolutely. Now, let's particularly talk about because you're obviously your way of investing is through mutual funds and equities market. Now, these are essentially commodities, but now, thanks to SIPs and mutual funds, that there are ways that you can gain exposure to
Yeah.
even commodities in a very simplified way, right? Now, how do you sort of look to invest in these commodities? First of all, obviously, gold has risen up. Do you think it's priced out? Do you think at the pace which central banks have been buying, it will now slow down, or do you think the momentum will still stay? And when it comes to particularly silver, like you said, that there's a shortage, the supply is not able to meet the demand. Then obviously it looked like a good opportunity that you should be investing in silver. But what are the ways then which, let's say, via mutual funds or ETFs, you can go to that route?
Vishwas, I'll tell you something very interesting, because at this point in time, it is extremely difficult to be able to make a judgment of where gold and silver is going to be,
Hmm.
because specifically to do with gold, it is so much of geopolitical
Right.
change that it is futile to be able to predict whether gold will go up or down,
Right.
right? Uh, so what is the context with which we are currently investing? Our thesis has been very simple, that if you are a long-term investor with 8-10 years of investment horizon, make sure that you have 80% in equity and 20% in gold,
Hmm.
right? You don't want fixed income in general, because most people in India either will have, working class will either have an EPF investment or a VPF investment that they are doing. People will have PPF, LIC, which they
Right.
don't really consider as a fixed income investment in general.
Right.
Right. So I'm saying that people invariably, unthoughtfully also have a lot of fixed income.
Right.
So in your core portfolio, you have 80% equity and 20%
Hmm.
gold. Right. Now, if you have this balance, try and maintain that balance.
Hmm.
The day you overshoot that, try and rebalance it back to 80-20.
Right.
If you are able to continuously do that, I think you will be in a much better position than trying to predict whether gold is a great buy at this price, or will it go down or go up in the near future. Because it is impossible, at least the way I look at it, to be able to predict where gold is going to go.
Right.
Because the last calendar year when gold went up 30-35%, I remember people telling how gold was overvalued.
Hmm.
Gold is up another 48% this calendar year.
Right.
Right? Because it is not driven by any fundamental thought process, but more geopolitics.
There anything can happen. So
Anything can happen.
It could be 480% also, and next year it could be 48% down also.
Right? So you don't know. So, I mean, I don't know what probably Trump has lined up for another 3-4 years that he's going to be around. What is China looking
We
at
can't
doing?
even think of what he'll do in next 3-4 days.
Right? So I think it's futile to be able to
Right.
put your foot down and say what to do with gold. But am I buying gold at these levels? The answer is no.
Understood.
Right? If I can help you understand my thought on silver. Look, I've never been a silver investor. And
Okay.
I can tell you right now also that in spite of me telling you myself that
The probable reasons why silver is doing so well, or
right,
the
or
demand
it can continue to do well, I will not be a silver investor. I'll tell you why. See, my thesis is more asset allocation than returns driven.
right.
So from an asset allocation standpoint, why do I have 20% gold? Let's go back to your opening statement, right? The reason why I have 20% gold in my portfolio is because if in the near term equity probably for whatever reason doesn't do well, you have some asset which balances your portfolio, and that is typically gold. And which is why I don't have 5% but 20%.
Right.
Can I have 40-50%? The answer probably can depend on who I am. But I think because I'm slightly more risk, my ability to take more risk is slightly higher, and hence an 80% equity and a 20% gold. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the problem that gold is solving in my portfolio is near-term balance and long-term similar returns. So in the long term, I'm not compromising because equity and gold are largely ending up giving the same kind of return, whereas gold has much lower volatility. But in the short term, it is balancing my portfolio.
Right.
Can silver do that for me? The answer is no.
Right.
Right? So if equities are falling, does that make a case for silver to go up? The answer is no.
Right.
And if you look at historical numbers for 20-25 years of silver, you will understand that silver is nowhere close to gold in terms of risk adjusted return.
Right.
It is in most cases more volatile than the equity portfolio that you will have on board. Right? And the returns are so lumpy that probably if you are not if you're not a very disciplined investor,
Hmm.
right, and you can't stay put for 10 years, you will actually end up making a loss on an inflation adjusted basis investing in silver. So silver, in spite of the prices might
Hmm.
go up or whatever, but I'm assuming that it does not really solve any problem in my portfolio. And also, the advantages of silver are already a part of equity. Why? Because if silver is going to go up, I in the equity side of the investing that we do, we already have data centers
Right.
that we've invested in. We already have semiconductor themes that we've invested in,
Right.
right? So, am I really losing out on anything by not
Hmm.
investing in silver? My answer is a no.
Right.
So long story short, I am a more 80% equity and a 20% gold kind of investor.
So, Ketan, I understand your perspective that that 80-20 situation that you have with in relation to gold, because gold acts as a hedge when equities don't do well. Uh, but don't you think in the case of silver, although you already mentioned that 80% of the portfolio that is there, so you're already betting on AI, semiconductors, and everything, so that is sort of taken care of. So, just to play the devil's advocate, uh, is it not wrong to see silver in the context of gold in the sense that because silver's medium is not to act as a hedge,
Yeah.
then why not maybe add silver ETFs or certain mutual funds that could support the silver uptake in that 80% of the portfolio?
I think that's a fair question. And which is why I always keep saying that I look at silver as a sector investment,
Right,
right? For me, silver is nothing more than sectorial investing.
right.
So the call that I'm really making is, do I want to invest in the derivative or
Hmm.
not? When I say derivative, I'm saying, do I want to invest in the AI, semiconductor,
Right,
EV, battery as a theme, or I want to do silver,
right,
right? Now, uh, because traditionally we are equity guys and we understand equity slightly better than we do commodities, right? And commodity is a very large global play, right?
right,
Unlike equity, where probably there is a trend which is working, but there are financials that you can look at.
right,
You
right,
can
right.
talk to the management. You know what's
Hmm.
happening,
Hmm.
what are they doing, which
Hmm.
way is the
Hmm.
industry moving. There are 100 other elements that, because we've been tracking for
Right.
so
So
long, I
long.
think the comfort to
Yeah.
do equity is far more than the comfort to do
Right.
silver, because I'm not sure if I'm capable enough to understand that tomorrow, if something happens, uh,
How to transition,
how
maybe, yeah,
exactly how to transition.
transition
But
out
I
of
think I
silver.
am slightly more confident to be able to do that on equity.
Right.
So, which is why, and I'm assuming that if somebody like me feels this way, a retailer who's listening to us
Hmm. Right.
probably should
Right.
feel this way if they are not, right?
Right. Right.
And hence I think, and I if I really want to bet, I would rather take a sectorial bet in equity than trying to go long on silver. Look, again, I'm not saying that silver prices won't go up.
Right.
In fact, I am saying that probably it will go up.
Right.
But the point is that it does not fit the kind of investing that
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So it's the golden rule of investing. What
Yeah,
you don't understand or
don't do it.
don't do it. So yeah, that's there. So Ketan, thank you so much. I think I'm not sure what people might have think when they must have clicked on the thumbnail and ki gold versus silver पे आज शायद हमें ये मिलने वाला है कि we should be investing heavily
Yeah,
into both of these asset classes. But I think what people must have gotten is a very practical view of why gold has been rising. What is the case with silver? What are the outlines? And a very honest answer from your side that even you don't know what could happen to gold or silver, because these are uh, very large things at play that you don't have access to when it comes to the information, when it comes to
absolutely.
the what could happen, what could one country do and another country could do. So thank you so much for enlightening us today. It was really great to hear this conversation from your end.
Thank you so much for having me.